Skywatch.Ai insurance is on demand and anytime you need it, check out the link below. I'm Justin Davis and this is Joe Camp's RC. What's up guys? Welcome back to the Camps channel. I'm Justin Davis and I'm going to do something today that I used to tell my kiteboarding students not to do. I used to be a kiteboard coach back in the early 2000s and I did hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of kite lessons for people to learn how to kiteboard out in the ocean. And we would start them off in flat water, body dragging, and then we would move them up to wave riding on the outside of the island over in Cape Hatteras and teach them how to ride waves. And one of the general rules that I always told them, it was kind of a little saying that I had that I would tell people: don't go whale watching. Mainly because if you go whale watching, that means that you're way out there. The whales usually on the Oregon coast, they're usually way out past the breakers, out in the deep water. And luckily for me, I was sent the IH3 Long Range Edition with the R9M module here, and I've been testing this module. It's actually performing quite well. I haven't had any problems with fail safes, but I went whale watching, and I went whale watching with this IH3, and we got really lucky that we actually saw some whales out on the Oregon coast. It was super epic, and what was really epic about this whole adventure was the fact that we're flying all these different spots along the highway. And this is so cool because this little quadcopter, it records HD footage. It's 1080p. It's a really good price for this one. It has 3-inch props on here, 1108 motors, and it's sub 250 grams. So I'm talking about a long range mini quad, micro brushless, that you can fly out over a mile or more. That's insane. Now, you have to keep one thing in mind when you're flying these micro brushless long range: battery life. Keep an eye on your battery life, your RSSI levels and all that. They didn't have the RSSI properly set up, so when I got out there to the coast, I set this up really quickly on my transmitter and went out flying for you guys. But very sketchy to fly super long range without RSSI. Just make sure you do that. We were going out there a little bit past regular normal receiver performance, so I wasn't really too worried about a fail safe. But this thing did fly really well out there, and it was super windy. It was probably over a 20-mile-an-hour wind at certain parts of the day. In the afternoon out on the Oregon coast, it gets really, really insanely windy. So the best time to fly out there is probably about 6 a.m. in the morning when there's absolutely no wind. The problem with that though is sometimes there's a lot of fog, so you have to wait till the afternoon to really get good camera shots. And luckily we went out there on this trip to fly this for you guys, and it was beautiful most of the day. By about 3 o'clock the wind did come up a lot, but it didn't really affect this guy too much. But it did feel like kind of like a hand on my shoulder the whole time I'm flying, and letting me know that it was there. But you have to think about your battery coming back and landing. If you're flying over water with one of these, you definitely want to keep that in mind. But we were lucky. We got some really awesome shots with this. So I'm happy to bring this review of the IH3 to you today. And I think they have something pretty good here. I'm very happy about the way this is set up. I did come back with almost no damage on this quad, and I'm going to share a little durability report with you guys. But if you want to win one of these, I actually got sent 2 of these, so I'm going to give back to my channel. If you guys want to become a Patreon on my channel, that'd be super awesome. You can click that link down below because we are becoming crowd-funded, which is amazing. You guys are supporting me on my videos. My build videos are really resourceful for a lot of people for many years. So if you like what I do, you can become a Patreon for $1 or more. Speaking of that, coming up at the end of this month, we're giving away that Compass 2 and goggle set and a few other prizes right here on the channel at the end of September. And for October, this is going to be one of my giveaways for October. So you can subscribe on the channel and that will get you entered into the drawing. If you really want to help me out, go ahead and click the link below and become a Patreon, because I really need the help with that. And this is a huge expense to keep doing this and try to make this my full-time gig. But I really appreciate the guys who are supporting me right now on Patreon. So I want to say thank you for that. You are keeping my road trips and my videos going. But let's go ahead now. Let's go together out to the Oregon coast. Let's do a little bit of flying with the IH3, and then we'll come back in the studio. And I think you guys are going to be pretty impressed with the performance and the build quality of the IH3. It's actually a pretty awesome quad, And even more impressive that this guy is under 250 grams for a little long range cinema style quad. Super epic. So let's go out and fly this little IH3 now, and we'll come back in after the break.
Let's go.
I love taking those trips. I love going out with some new gear, and I had tons of gear with me yesterday to fly for you guys out at the coast, but most of the day I spent most of my time flying the IH3 because I couldn't stop flying it. And that's when you know something is really good, when you can't put it down and fly all the other toys you have in your bag, and I pretty much have them all. And I just love this one. The R9 Mini on here performed perfect. I did have one failsafe behind a rock, and I have a little damage on here that I'm going to show you, but I was super impressed with the durability, the lack of jello in the 1080p video on the Runcam Mini split. Very, very nice quality video for 1080p. I had a pretty large SD card in there, up to about 64 gigabyte. You can store all kinds of 1080p video on a 64 gigabyte card. So take one of those cards with you, empty it out before you go on your trip, of course, and you're going to have pretty much an entire weekend to fly this thing and get all the video you want. And with the combination of the R9 module, R9M module, and the Mini on there, you can go way out over the ocean and just do all kinds of insanely epic shots and not worry about failsafe. And this was the first weekend that I flew the IH3. So my first trip out to the beach with it, I was basically doing my range test for the first time, and the R9M is still pretty new to me, and I've tested it on other quads, but I was a little concerned about the shorter lifetime, flight time of the battery on board the IH3. So I did experiment with different batteries for you guys. I did try the 4S 850 milliamp. That's going to get you a little over 3 minutes. That's probably a pretty good power to weight ratio battery on this. If you want to drop it down below 250 grams, you can do something like a 3S 650, or you can do a 4S 550, and that'll keep you underneath that registration limit. So you don't even have to put a number on this guy, and you can just about fly it anywhere because it's classified as a toy. So that's really, really epic and awesome, because I feel a lot of freedom when I'm flying something under 250 grams that can pull off the type of video that this thing can. So very little jello in the video again, and I'm very impressed with that. Now, this is like one of the third or fourth iterations of the IH3. So this is called their IH3 Pro model with the 1108 motors and 3-inch Avon props. And they have the original one, the original IH3 came with these little 1106 motors. And at the time, I say little, but 1106 was huge earlier this year for micro brushless. The late last year to the middle of last year is when we started approaching 1106 on micro brushless, and the Baby Hawk R came out ripping on 2 and 3S with 1106s. And I think that they motored down on this particular design by keeping it smaller, doing the 1108s or the 1106s. That does a lot of weight reduction for you. If they put 1408s on there, you'd be well over 250 grams. So I think they made the right power choice here, and they kept the weight off this quad. Now, coming up in the future, I would like to see them turn this one over from the original Split Mini to the Split Mini 2, because you do see 2 layers in here. And that's okay for what this is. You have plenty of room in here underneath the flight controller. The flight controller is actually mounted on that top plate right there, if you just look right there. And I didn't have to do any PID tuning on that flight controller, which was also great. I just took it out of the box and I flew it, and I was getting, you know, very like no vibes on this quad. It was very smooth and really nice on 4S. If you want to freestyle it, you can freestyle it all day on 4S and have a really nice power punch out. If you want to do some slow flow cinema FPV style stuff with your long range receiver, you can keep it on 3S. And if you want to experiment with a 3S 2200, this thing will actually tote a 3S 2200, which is kind of crazy. But you can do those really nice cinematic shots if you want to do that. Now, I'm also really happy that these quads have smart audio enabled on it, so you can use a transmitter to go inside the menus. You can change up your quad profiles. You can save different profiles inside there, just like in Betaflight, and switch between different PID profiles or quad setups, which is really, really cool. You can also change the OSD settings. You can put stuff on the screen or take it back off. Now, one thing I noticed that was some stuff came up in the smack in the middle of the screen, so you would have to go in and move some of those things around, but you can actually turn off on or off just about everything inside the OSD, which is really, really cool. And GPS is in there, all types of different GPS settings, your PID profiles, rates, and your channels and bands and VTX power, all that stuff like you'd normally have. The craft name is all inside those menus, and it's super easy to access or change things on the fly, which I was able to do within a matter of 30 seconds, just going in the menus, flipping over to increase the VTX power to 200 so I could fly out a little further over the ocean for you guys. No big problems there at all. So I really like what they have going on here. I think they've gone through various different stages to get to the point that we're at now, and I've seen the work that they've been doing, and they have definitely progressed from this original one that they sent me. They've gone a long ways to the point where we're at now. So I think that you're probably safe to buy one of these, and just make sure that you pop the top on it and look at your VTX connector back there. I really wish this was an MMCX connector on this particular VTX, because if you are flying long range, the worst thing in the world could happen is that this pops off the back of your VTX. And from vibration from a quad, these smaller UFL connectors, they can pop off. And a lot of times what I do is I just put a dab of hot glue over top of that connector. But in this case, I didn't have a hot glue gun with me, so I actually had to use a little piece of VHB in my buzzer just to hold it down. So check yours when you get it. Very important if you're going to do any type of range flying with your IH3. So it comes in this box, and this is a relatively small box for what I was getting. I was pretty impressed with everything that was in here. You do get those smaller straps that I love that iFlight makes, and they're some of the first companies to make these smaller style straps with this little sort of plastic backing on it and a metal buckle, which is really insanely nice. And they even gave me a super mini strap, and this is really awesome. This is a much smaller version, micro brushless strap right here. That's really nice that it comes in the box, and you get a converter if you want to go from a JST battery. Say you had a 2S battery or some type of 3S battery that you wanted to convert over to the XT30 right there, you can do that. You have 2 extra plates, and that's that original style front plate that I showed you before on the original one. It's kind of cool that they include that as well. And this is the hardware that I was telling you about. And I'm not a huge fan of the hardware. I think their hardware could be a little bit better for the props, and maybe just a little bit longer for those particular prop nuts. You also get some stickers here and some newly designed iFlight logo stickers, which is super cool, and these round ones as well. You get a whole bunch of different run cam accessories in here, and these normally come with your run cam split mini, so it's cool they include all that as extra cables. You get some of this stuff, this dual lock, which a lot of people like. This is really hardcore, durable Velcro style stuff that sticks to itself. You don't have to have 2 different type of pieces. That's kind of cool. And I did get a black strap in there as well, and I did get a full set of those Avon props in the bag, in the box with this particular drone. So those are running really nice, and I don't really think you have to use any other type of prop on this particular IH3. So let's just go ahead and do a live weigh-in, and what I call the dry weight, that's because we don't have a battery on there. That's 132.5 grams. That's kind of amazing for all the hardware they have packed on there. Now let's add the first battery in the lineup. This would be a 3S 850. So let's see what that gets us in at. I'll just kind of slide that here like that. If you're wanting to keep it under 250 grams, and that right there is right around 190.5 grams, which is kind of awesome. And let's go ahead and stick the 4S 850 on there and see what we come up with. And that's going to give you a pretty good flight time right there. That's over 3 minutes. That's 221 grams. So you're still under 250 grams, and that makes this quad like definitely 5 stars. So that about wraps it up, and you already know the star rating on this one, and I've got to give 5 stars all the way across. And I guess one thing that I don't like about this, if I can be honest, is the way they have that mounted up front. I didn't think that was such a great idea with them sticking up like that, because they could run into the props, and the worst thing that could possibly happen to you when you're flying a mile out is having this run into that prop. That is just going to destroy your quad in your day, especially if you're over water. So I would secure those to the bottom like this, or honestly take the time to just go ahead and move this receiver and take this off and put this somewhere else, probably on the top, sticking up off the top somewhere where you're going to have a full spectrum radio signal back to your radio. But I am pleased with the entire setup they have here. They have gone through various revisions of this. They've done their homework on the IH3. They've actually put more work into this particular quad than I've seen them do on just about any other design that they have on their website. And you got to check out iFlight's website right now. It's kind of going off. They have all kinds of really cool stuff on there. They have the new skins for the HL5 and the HL7, sort of longer range style quads. They're releasing new motors, which they have on this one, and race motors, and they have the link over there for the IH3 Pro, which is going to have some pretty juicy props on it as well. They have their own style prop. You can swap those out if you want to, and they have a new Dove 5-inch super ultra light race quad coming out, freestyle quad, which is super awesome. So you can go to their website and you can click on racing drones and go down to the link where it says bind and fly. Once you get in there, you'll see various versions of this one up at the top row. This is their kind of featured quad right now. The IH3 long range edition's there, the Pro model is there, and they have sort of the IH3, the racing drone version. That one's a little bit cheaper, and that one doesn't have all the bells and whistles on it like the Pro model. The Pro model is the one that is going to look like this with the 1108s on there, but the regular version without all the bells and whistles on it is $139, and the IH3 Pro is $234. But once you spend the money on this, you're probably not going to worry about it when you're out and flying this one, because it's definitely worth the $200. It seems like quite a lot of money for a micro brushless, but then again, the fun factor is just like super high with this, and I'm happy with it. So I gotta give 2 thumbs up to iFlight. I think they've really done their homework, and they've come a long way with the IH3 series, but especially incorporating with the long range stuff is really a lot of fun, and it opens up a whole new world of FPV cinema film. So I hope you appreciated my edit and the chances that I took with this for you guys, because one little mess up out there and your quad's going in the water offshore. So something definitely to think about when you're flying in those more exotic locations, and also because you've never flown in those locations, and sometimes you could have just an act of God take your quad and land it in the ocean. But luckily for me, mine is back, and now I can make this minor repair, and hopefully maybe do some more videos for you guys on the IH3. If you request that, I can try to do that for you. But I appreciate you watching and subscribing on my channel as always, guys. Take care and have a great week. I'm Justin Davis. Guys, I'll see you on the next one.